Thanks, everyone. We're at 7:01 and we've got a big agenda. I'm Amy Munsell. I'm going to be hosting tonight with our amazing speakers, and we want to get right to it so they have plenty of time. I'm a board member with Porch Communities. I've been working with Christine and the board for a couple of years now, and I'm really excited to host this. I want to say, first of all, thank you for spending your time with us. We really appreciate it. And I guess congratulations, because you already have done something positive and taken a step on being part of the solution by showing up and spending your time here tonight. And we really appreciate it. Just a couple of quick logistical notes. We are recording this presentation, so be aware of that. Of course, we'll be sharing the recordings. We always get that question. You will receive a follow-up note with information and links, so anything you hear about tonight that you will be able to follow up. However, there is a chat that's active, and you can feel free to put questions into the chat. So if you click at the bottom of your screen or wherever you have the menu bar, you see a little chat option, and you can jump right in there and you can ask questions. And Lori, one of my fellow Porch Communities gurus, is going to be monitoring that. She'll do her best to answer, and we'll follow up with any questions that don't get answered on this call. So let's see, everyone is muted because we do have a really big group and we really appreciate you working with us on Zoom. So ask in the chat. As I said, for those who just joined though, just a reminder, this call is being recorded. So we will go ahead and move right into our content. As promised, we've gotten a lot of requests from across the community for kind of continuing education around food insecurity. We know you all have some awareness of it. Everybody's interested or they wouldn't be here. So we appreciate that. But we know that we can always learn more. So we put together a pretty simple agenda. We want to go behind the scenes, right, to better understand what does food insecurity really look like? What solutions are helping to meet those challenges? Really, how are, things being done in a creative way to kind of meet the barriers to addressing food insecurity? What have, the speakers learned along the way? And how can you get involved wherever you live to make a difference? So that was kind of the questions that we've posed to our amazing speakers, and we have 3 of them this evening. We have Christine Cotton. She's the founder of Porch Communities, and she's going to share sort of the approach that has grown up and really what she's learned over time, and we continue to learn around food insecurity. And then we also have Melissa Driver-Beard joining us from Cora, one of our huge partners here in North Carolina. Melissa is the executive director, and she's going to share some exciting new things that she's been driving in this organization. And we have Gail Battersby, and she's joining us from the YMCA. She's a partner of ours in Georgia, and they're doing some really innovative things there. And Gail has been working in various aspects of community engagement for a long time. She's a super connector, and she's going to share some of her experiences on the ground. So with that, I would like to move it right ahead. And Christine, we're going to have you kind of come up first and talk about really what food insecurity means for the families that are dealing with it, kind of in the immediate and in the long term. And then kind of where you've evolved with Porch and, what kind of solution that is to help address some of the issues.
Wonderful. Well, Amy, I want to say first, thank you so much for all your efforts in putting this webinar together. It is a real heavy lift, and I'm so appreciative, and I speak on behalf of everybody here. I just wanted to say thank you to you and to everyone joining us, and to our incredible community partners and volunteers. Thank you to everybody. But yeah, let's get right into why we are here. And unfortunately, we are here because there's a problem, and the problem is almost 11% of the US population is facing food insecurity. And these folks facing food insecurity live in every state and in every county across the United States. We can't say that it's, isolated to one area or to one pocket. It really is prevalent everywhere. So who exactly suffering from food insecurity. These are the faces of food insecurity. When I first saw this, I was actually taken aback. So food insecurity it's definitely unpredictable and recurring, but a really key point that we need to take note of is it is a situation that working families find themselves in. I always hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's people who don't have jobs, people who you know fill in the blank." But these are working families that we're talking about. And it's also very important that right now we set the stage for what is food insecurity. And there's a difference between hunger. We all feel hunger. I will probably feel hunger in about a half an hour, right? We all know what hunger feels like, but food insecurity is different. Food insecurity, and we have it written out, it's the state of being without reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food. Okay, so it's more than just being hungry. It's more than missing a meal. It's part of it is being the stress of not knowing if you have a meal or where that meal may be coming from. So here are the faces of hunger. And again, like I said, it may not be what you have expected or what you may have thought food insecurity looks like. But in the United States, 1 in 8 children, 1 in 8 kids in the United States are food insecure. That's 9 million kids. And again, like I said, these kids are all across the country in every state. But what we see at Porch in the school districts and the community partners that we're working with, it's more than 1 in 8. It's 20 and 25% of students in a school district face food insecurity. Now, these children may be missing meals. They may be living in a household where an adult or a caretaker or parent may be having to miss a meal so the child can eat. The parents are making decisions over whether they can go grocery shopping or whether they have to pay an unexpected bill that came up. So food insecurity, again, is more than just about being hungry. It's the state in which you live and the uncertainty around food. Now, I also want to address the situation of young adults and college students. We're learning more and more, and I was surprised to hear this recently this year, that 20 to 25% of students on four-year college campuses face food insecurity. So 25% of students on college campuses face food insecurity. And if we think about community colleges, 40% of students that attend community colleges face food insecurity. And that's a lot to wrap your head around. And there are a lot of reasons for it. But some of the most basic is the cost of tuition. If students are getting grants and scholarships, it's to cover the cost of the classes, not to cover their meal plans. If students can't afford to get a meal plan, they're definitely not getting the meal plan that we would like, right? 3 meals a day, seven days a week, maybe with snacks thrown in there. And for some of the low-income students, they're not even able to go home for long holidays or extended weekend breaks. So they're on campus when there isn't even access to food because the cafeterias have shut down and they can't afford to go out in the town and buy a meal. So it's really a big problem on college campuses. And it's also interesting to note the demographic of what a college student is actually changing. 1 in 5 college students right now are raising a child, and usually those are single parents. So the stressors around being a college student are enough. Then you throw in the possibility that 1 in 5 have a child. And then on top of that, as I said, 20 to 25% of these students are facing food insecurity. Another population that we not like to explore, but need to explore is our senior population. The rate of food insecurity among seniors is growing more rapidly than any other demographic. Right now, in the past 10 years, actually, it was 5% of seniors were food insecure. Currently, it's around 14% of seniors are food insecure. And the projection is as the population ages, that number is going to just double. So this is putting a lot of working people at risk for food insecurity and not being able to know where their next meal comes from. And I think it's important for us, since, as I mentioned earlier, that these are working families, to understand what a budget looks like for these families. So this is a rough estimate, assuming that one person in the household is working at a living wage job. And I'll tell you, over the years that I've been doing this, not always Are you finding, one of the adults in the household is able to get a living wage job? Many times this is the same $36,000 that a family is making, and parents are making, working one or two jobs just to do their best to try to make ends meet. So let's go with this assumption here, and the family will be bringing home around $2,700 a month. And like all the rest of us, right? Rent, utilities, phone, transportation, all of that is coming right off the top. So what does that leave you now for what you might want to consider discretionary funds for your groceries, for your childcare? That's $860. It's not even close to what a family would need to live even comfortably is a stretch. According to the USDA, this number 973 for groceries, it's not random, it's not a typo. That is actually a number that the USDA provides as what it costs to feed a family of four using what they consider the most thrifty shopping strategy. And a thrifty shopping strategy means that you're buying every product in your grocery cart is the lowest price across multiple grocery stores, which means you're going to multiple grocery stores, you're clipping every coupon, and you're using every digital coupon out there. So imagine if that's what you had to do to make ends meet, to just make your grocery bill. There are so many stressors in your life. You don't have enough money to pay for groceries, and the only way that you feel that you can do it is by hopping from grocery store to grocery store. So this is not exactly a situation that is conducive for a family, but it's only a part of what these families are facing. We're good. So what is happening is
Going back.
Okay. The cycle of hunger. So food insecurity is not an isolated issue. It's part of the cycle of hunger. And this is a cycle of hunger. It's a vicious and it's an interconnected cycle. It happens unfortunately, it's community. A lot of times it's community-wide. It's persistent, the food insecurity. And let's just start with a child over here. If you can see in the blue, is a child who's born into a food insecure family. He's just a kid growing up. Because there's lack of food in his house, he may suffer from some illnesses. He definitely may miss school. He may miss school just because he's hungry. He doesn't want to go to school or he's hungry yet. And, and the child may have a headache. So this child starts out his academic career a little bit behind the curve. Now, if a child or anyone, right, if you're persistently hungry, you're definitely going to be maybe, getting yourself in trouble, facing consequences. You're going to have trouble focusing. Right? You're going to have some behavioral issues. And as we all know, all of those issues lead to poor grades overall. And if this is, as I say, this is a persistent issue, this is happening for this child year in and year out, they're not getting good grades and they're not going to have good educational outcomes and good opportunities for going to school, for going to college. So what happens to this child that's growing up in a food insecure home? More likely than not, they're going to have limited opportunities because they do not have a solid education. Those limited opportunities are only going to leave them with a low income, which is going to leave them with lack of resources to manage their family budget and to be able to purchase their groceries. And unfortunately, a study recently came out that said families that suffer from food insecurity also have an increased risk of abuse in the family. So again, this is not just about food, it's about all of these interwoven issues that work, unfortunately, against a family. So now we have this child, right, who went to school, food insecure, didn't get the greatest education because they were always hungry, they couldn't concentrate. They grow up, they have a family, they have a baby. That baby is brought up in the same conditions where there's food, where food insecurity is prevalent in the household. And that child, the cycle goes round and round, and people they've been watching this. This is what has been happening. What we all want to do is we want to figure out how can we break this cycle. Now, there's a lot of great people and a lot of great minds working on how to break the cycle. Living wage is one of them. Affordable housing is another. And the one that we're excited to talk to you about tonight is how can we support our food pantries so we can hopefully take some of the pressure off of this family so that they're able to have the food that they need when they need it. The unfortunate issue is the capacity at our amazing pantries are limited, and there's challenges to providing all the support that is needed. Over the past few months coming out of COVID, and it's continuing, 75% of pantries have seen an increase in need. Now, unfortunately, that increase in need, in demand, hasn't been met with an increase in donations. It's very hard for pantries to keep up, to keep their shelves stocked. And I know that we'll hear from Melissa and Gail, who will give us more information about that. But it's very difficult to keep the shelves stocked. Sometimes pantries have a difficult time with staying open at hours that that work with the families. Sometimes they can only have limited hours, or they're in churches, they're small pantries, so that's an issue for pantries. And then another issue is providing access to fresh foods. Fresh foods, as we know, right, require refrigeration. The shelf life of fresh is not very long. So providing that to families is definitely a challenge. And this is where we as Porch, this is where we learn, this is where we partner and work to fill the gaps, where local neighbors come together to help local families. And we know that the need is everywhere, and we truly believe that Porch can be everywhere as well. So I'm very excited to share a little bit about Porch with all of you. Porch was established in 2010. We're a grassroots hunger relief organization. Our mission is to mobilize and support local volunteers to create sustainable hunger relief programs. And it's not just creating these programs, it's creating these programs and working in conjunction with food pantries and other partners who are helping us make a difference in the community. Today, we are 1,500 volunteers strong. We have chapters in neighborhoods in 10 states that are working with over 160 partners. And last year and this year, we're on track to continue through our community efforts to provide over $2 million a year in local hunger relief. And as I said, our vision is a porch in every community, and we don't think that that's too much of a stretch. And that's because our model is very simple. The model is built on the needs of the food pantry. So once a month, neighbors will ask neighbors to leave food on their front porches. Like I said, the food that's left on the front porch is by request of the pantry. So we're getting pantries exactly what they would like. The food is then picked up by a volunteer, a neighbor who lives in the community, and they bring that food directly to a pantry that afternoon. And we like to say the food that you leave out on your front porch in the morning is hopefully at the table of a family in need by that evening. And it truly is that simple. And that's why we've seen it being replicated in so many towns and communities. So as you can see on this slide, the impact of the local effort that we all can have on a community is incredible. So working together, Porch neighborhoods are supporting 161 community partners in schools, in pantries, in food banks. And through those efforts, we're supporting over 6,000 people a month. And that's just through our one Porch for Pantries program. It doesn't include the other programs. But we are so, so proud to work with so many inspiring community partners. And in our last pantry survey that we just completed, our partners have reported back to us that on average, 40% of what is coming into their pantry is due to the Porch neighborhood food drives. That number is incredible, and it's a testament to what our Neighbors Helping Neighbors model is, and the generosity of our volunteers and the generosity of the donors, and the fact that by leaving food on your front porch once a month, the difference that can make in a community. So this evening, we're just very lucky to have two of our partners joining us to share more about their work and how our model works within the work that they are working, and how we can be part of the solution for so many of these amazing food pantries. So back to you, Amy, as we hand it off to Gail. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. And I think for a lot of us, as you say, one of the things that's great about Porch and the creative model that you've started is that it lets volunteers in the local communities be responsive to what those local needs are. As you said, pantries have a lot of different needs. Some of them, it's quantity, some it's type of food, some it's, fresh, et cetera. And so I love that we can be responsive, but I also like to see where does that food end up and how are the needs maybe different in different places. And so really happy to have Gail kind of talk a little bit about what she sees on food insecurity in the area of Atlanta that you're working in, Gail, and kind of the approach that you're taking to addressing it. So really happy to have you, and I pass it to you.
Awesome. Thank you. It's an honor to be here, especially with the people that I get to speak with. So thank you. I want to tell you a couple things about what we're doing. We have always been in the food area, and we were partnering with our school district just to do it when the kids were out of school. But then the pandemic changed everything, and we had to look at how do we support our families now out of school. So RY, which is in Cobb County, looked at it to see how we could make that impact. And so we kind of changed our model just from when school is out to really serving our families weekly. And it was a dramatic change because of the fact that the families that we unearthed because of COVID, there's so many more communities out there we're finding that are not being served, that have food insecurity. And what Christine said was I got goosebumps when she shared it, is that budget. When you look at that and from COVID, how rent went up from $800 a month for some of our families to over $1,500, it just wiped them out, and our numbers in line increased because of what COVID did with rent and how food costs went up. Our numbers, and there's so many more communities, and we're going to talk about how we can all get involved to help make this happen. And first I'm going to go to Porch because I want to share with you our partnership and why that's so important to us. As we were serving our Brumby Elementary School, there was a neighborhood across the street that was actually a Porch neighborhood. And we found out from them that they were looking for a place to give food. And we needed that food at our at Brumby Elementary. We have partnered with Atlanta Community Food Bank, who is a great partner of ours. And did you know that school pantries will deliver, at least in Atlanta, to Title I schools? All the food is free. We get fresh produce. We get 6 different pallets. It's free. But why the schools don't take part of that is because they don't have the volunteer structure to go ahead and make that happen. The teachers are already doing a yeoman's job every single day in teaching our children, but to add going ahead and putting a hunger relief program. So partnerships are key. That's where we partnered with Brumby Elementary and said, guess what? We'll bring the volunteers in if you allow us to use your school. And that school now gets, there's Brumby right there with all the cars. And there's our wonderful Porch volunteers. But now we get to serve over 300 families a week, 10,000 pounds of fresh produce because of this partnership. And where Porch comes in is this. Liz, who I love, who is our Marietta Porch person, she came over and said, guess what? I want to volunteer with you. Her networking and telling the story of Porch, of how simple we can go ahead and help our neighbors. She went ahead and made friends, and those friends are now Porch people. So they are now doing, so out of Brumby, of just coming to volunteer, guess what? She has about 7 or 8 new Porch neighborhoods, which what does that do? Liz is just exploding with opportunities now of how she can help others, how she can be a school pantry and get them snacks because of this partnership. So it's like a match made in heaven, because I have the volunteers, she gets to tell the story, and together we get to help more and more communities. It's amazing. So now we started a new pantry at Sawyer Road Elementary. And instead of just inviting Liz to come, she's our 3rd partner. So now we have the Y, we have the school, and we have Porch, and we planned it together. It wasn't one person, it was how we come together as a group. We are so much stronger and we can do so much more. And it is just amazing. The partnership is amazing of what you can do. And you just have to open your doors to find out Is there a local Y? Is there a local other nonprofit that you can partner with and then introduce Porch? Because this is my belief. When you said you wanted a porch in every community, I think the only reason it's not is you don't have enough people out there telling the story of Porch, because once anyone hears about it, they're like, I can do that. That's simple. We can all take a part of it. So if you can get the Porch information, and whether you find out there's a pantry at a church, at a school, or wherever, all you have to do is say, we can bring you volunteers. If you're good at connecting, what can you bring to the table? And then Porch will do the rest with the collecting. And now guess what? You have food for a community just because you told the story of Porch, right?
I love it.
Yes. But we need more people out there telling about Porch, because when this is introduced to we have maybe 60 volunteers, there's usually at least 5 to 10 that say, I can do that. I can do that once a month and I can help. And the great thing is just think, when you help, that helps your heart. You grow, and people of that community feel like they're a part of it. So when you ask them to help you, you're helping them feel a part of something larger, like, hey, I made a difference. They get to tell their story, right? So I just get so excited about Porch. But let me tell you some other things that we're doing. I just didn't want to miss that piece, because Porch is very important. And you see a lot of our volunteers with Porch t-shirts on, because they're so proud of what that's doing in their neighborhoods. But we have partnered with 2 elementary schools. We get the food free of charge if it's a Title I school. And then we organize the volunteers, and we go ahead and do the reporting. So we've taken that heavy lift off the school, yet now we get to serve their children. And when we do this, guys, we're helping a whole community, because if they have food on their table and they don't have to worry about where the next meal's coming from, because they know next week they can come to the school and get more food, then they can go ahead and pay for that rent. They can go ahead and maybe make that doctor's appointment. So we're helping in so many different ways by making sure that together we're helping the community with food. We've also decided there were several neighborhoods, and I actually could quadruple the neighborhoods I'm in, but right now I'm in 5 neighborhoods. So we go right into the apartment complexes. And what's just beautiful about this is we get to know each and every family. So not only do we bring the food and we serve, and we truly believe that we're serving the community, we're not giving them food, we get the privilege of serving them. And we love to sprinkle love and hope and fun and anything we can do for our community. So we have 48 different partners and more. And when I say that is, we've partnered with the National Charity League, which is a mother and daughter in almost every community. Go look them up. National, we have Young Men's Service League, again, almost in every community. Young Men's Service League actually makes activity bags. So when we go to our pop-up markets, we have goodies for the kids to hand out. And we become the great, I can't wait to go to the market and see what surprise they have for us today. During the holidays, we always have snacks for them. We have special things. We make sure we bring Christmas to them. We try to bring birthdays, but getting to know the families. If someone's having a baby, our volunteers will go to the secondhand stores and get strollers and cribs. And we bring, now we have at every pop-up market, we have clothing. If we supply them with clothing and books and that, they don't have to buy it, which then gives them more money. We're changing their lives in the community by just asking others to help. So the kids get books every week. We have clothes every single week for them. A lot of people think, well, they can look on the internet and find out where all the food pantries are. But guess what? Most of our families, if they can't afford food and clothing, how do they afford the internet? They don't have it. And a lot of times, most of the people we're serving speak a different language, and they may not even have English as their first language. And so trying to even navigate the internet to figure out where food pantries are. So that's why it's so important. We try to have a very diverse group, and we try to recruit volunteers that can speak Spanish. The trust level that we have with the community now is where if other organizations are coming to us so that they can come into the community and get the word out, the word about whether it's free day camp or vaccinations. So we partner with whomever we can, whether it's a school district, whether it's Cobb and Douglas Health Department, to try to bring as many resources now into our communities to strengthen them from the ground up. And therefore then the changes happen. And so maybe now, I love the one is we were doing reading with a child, and guess what we found out? That the volunteer was so sharp, she couldn't see the reading. So what did that volunteer do? Volunteers are so powerful. We love them. They're like gold. Is she went ahead, contacted the Lions Club. The Lions Club went ahead and got her an eye appointment. That little girl in kindergarten was able now to read, and the change in that one child was worth everything we do, because now she's in school and she's successful, right? Because she can read. But mom couldn't afford the eye appointment, and she couldn't afford the glasses. So it's amazing that getting into the communities, if you can do pop-up markets, I would encourage you. I would encourage you if you can tell the story of Porch. Really, they are a glue to help with us all of our dry goods. We have the food bank gives us all of our veggies and everything, but we don't have the dry goods. So together we're able to now give stable meals. All I can say is the more people you partner with, even like Publix, we pick up at 5 Publix their day olds, because that's the treat for our families.
Yeah.
They love that. But the more people you can look in your partner that you can partnership, if you have a nonprofit get together group, where you can talk about, this is our issue, who can do what piece of it, and then it doesn't become a heavy load to lift. And the magic is the smile, the hugs, the food that I get to eat that I've never known about, pupusas and hot tamales. I get the richness of the culture. And again, these families become our friends. And friends, you're always willing to stretch an open arm to help out and do what you can. So I'll leave it there, because I have a million stories, and I told Amy me off when I needed to.
No, it's great. No, we love it. And I introduced you as like super connector, right, Gail? Because I mean, I think everyone can tell from these stories that, you know, wherever you start, the point that you and the Y are starting, you know, you, as you told me, like it's all about like building that trust and that consistency and meeting people where they are, which is a big part of what we believe, Porch. And once you keep showing up and meeting them where they are, you know, you discover how you can, you know, work with others to even meet, you know, more of the need and just, you know, build the community stronger. And I really love, you know, we all really appreciate the work that you do, and we're happy to be able to show up as Porch. So thank you.
Thank you. And we love Porch.
Thank you. Thank you. We love the Y. So great. Thanks. So now I'm going to move on. That was the Y in Georgia. And now we're going to move. I feel like, you know, I need a map with a little airplane. Now we're traveling back to North Carolina to talk with Melissa about some innovative programs that Cora is driving and kind of the face of food insecurity there. So Melissa, welcome so much.
Thank you to Amy and Christine and Gail, and among lots of good company here. So I appreciate being able to participate tonight and talk a little bit about Cora and the work that we do with Porch to address food insecurity in our area. One of the things I really love about Cora is the simplicity of our mission. We actually changed our mission statement to simplify it a little bit more even last year. You know, when you boil it down, it just says we feed people. You know, Cora provides nutritious food to community members facing food insecurity, but at the heart of it is we feed people. And we've been working since 1989 to envision and create a community without hunger. And, you know, we do that in lots of different ways and have been sort of building up to everything that we're doing today for the last 34 years, which is kind of unbelievable. Just in this past, 6 months or so, we've been doing a lot of new stuff. I don't know how many of you out there are familiar with Cora, and Amy, if you want to jump ahead one.
Sure.
Over the last 6 months, we've finished up some absolutely enormous construction and renovation projects. In collaboration with Chatham County government, we were able to open a brand new food pantry that's actually adjacent to the building that we're currently in. And one of these pictures here shows what it looks like. And I simply couldn't be more proud of it. It looks like a small grocery store. Pantry operations director used to work at Whole Foods, so she brings her Whole Foods skill set and talents to setting up all this beautiful space every day. But we also renovated our office space to be able to provide the neighbors that we serve with a place that's really dignified, with a place that makes it nice to visit. You can see in one of these pictures here, the bookshelves that are in the background. Kids that come are able to read and take away books. And while we don't want the families to have to wait very long before they're able to shop, it's a nice, really welcoming, inviting space for them to be able to go into. Even though we've got this new space, and many of our programs are the same, and I'll talk a little bit more about them in a few minutes, but to kind of mirror and echo what Christine said, our statistics in Chatham County, which is a really large, mostly rural county, mirror the statistics of the United States. About 10% of the population living there is facing food insecurity, is at or below the poverty level, which for those of you that may not sit around and study poverty data, for a family of 4, poverty level is $30,000 a year. For a family of 4 at 200% of the poverty level, that's $60,000. That $60,000, as Christine delved into, it just doesn't go as far as it used to. And most of the folks that we serve at Cora are at 200% of the poverty level or below. So 29% of the people in our county are considered, to be in that low income bracket. About half the school children that are in Chatham County are enrolled in some kind of free or reduced lunchtime program. The statistics show that about almost 14% of them are facing childhood food insecurity and have some sort of barrier to eating healthy snacks and meals. At Cora, about 8% of the people that we serve are under age 5, about 25% are under age 18, 16% are over the age of 65. So that really reflects that we're covering a lot of those vulnerable populations, our elders and the really young population. And one of the interesting things is about 70% of the people that we serve, or just shy of 70%, come from the western part of our county. So, we don't have public transportation in Chatham County. So a lot of the folks that we serve are doing all that they can to make the sometimes, 45-minute trip into Pittsburgh to Cora Food Pantry to get the food that they need. So we're really trying to focus on taking a lot of our programs out to them. One of the ways that we do that, and not really at the pantry itself, but one of the ways that we serve folks is at the pantry. Generally, people who have any sort of dealing with Cora whatsoever come to our pantry first. That's their first interaction, and we try to make it as dignified as an experience as possible. We try to ask as few questions as possible. We don't want to be intrusive. We want folks to feel like they have a safe atmosphere that they can come into, where they're not going to be forced to fill out tons of applications and go through a really long, lengthy intake process. So it's quick and easy. If a new person comes into Cora, they're greeted by one of our wonderful intake volunteers. They may be asked a few questions. If more information is required, we have a private, quiet room that we can go back into and fill out, a little bit more of an application. But we don't require proof of anything. We don't require proof of income. We don't require proof of address. We don't require proof of residency. So, it's a pretty quick and easy process. We distribute food through lots of different programs. But, like I said, most of the people who are familiar with us are familiar because of our food pantry. The pantry itself has changed extensively over the past 5 years, as has everything else in the entire world. When the pandemic hit, we pivoted and in less than 12 hours became a drive-through service model. So we started serving enormous numbers of people just in a drive-through capacity with pre-packed bags of food, as well as bags of produce and baked goods and other items. I jokingly say all the time, but I mean it with all seriousness, everything I learned about customer service delivery during the pandemic, I learned from Chick-fil-A. It was kind of shocking the number of times I went to Chick-fil-A just so I could find out what they were doing in their drive-through and then bring it back to Cora. But, that's really what the pandemic forced us to do. Almost just as abruptly, we changed our service model again when we moved into our new pantry just, 6 weeks ago. So we went back to client choice shopping for the first time in 3.5 years, which was really exciting, but very, very new to many of us. One of the things that's been most exciting about moving back into the pantry and into the choice shopping model has been really being able to focus on providing lots and lots of fresh, nutritious food. We get enormous amounts of dry goods and in some cases produce from the Porch, from our Porch communities. But we work also a lot with local farmers and gardeners and with the food bank and with retail recovery outlets, that's, local grocery stores in the area, so that we can provide nutritious food to the folks that we serve. We survey our neighbors all the time to find out what they want. And not surprisingly, we most often hear that they want fresh produce, fresh milk, fresh meat and dairy items like butter and cheese and eggs. And, so those kinds of things are very high priority and part of our strategic plan for us to be able to provide. And that's really what people can access most easily in our pantry. Another way that we work with folks is through our mobile markets. Mobile markets were first conceived, for us at least, in 2019. And we started this in an effort to serve our neighbors where they were. As I just mentioned, about 70% of the people that we serve come from west of Pittsburgh, which is where we're located. And so that made it really crystal clear to us that there was a large need in the rest of the county that we couldn't meet just because it was so difficult for folks to get to us. So in October of 2019, we set up our first mobile market in Siler City. Have continued to grow that ever since. Initially, it was set up like a small farmers market, and we also relied upon a choice model. When the pandemic hit, we immediately went to drive-through, and that's been a model that has really worked beautifully for us. We're out on a road called Technology Way, which is kind of a road to nowhere out near the hospital in Siler City. It's a couple miles long and it ends at a dead-end cul-de-sac. There's not another business back there, so cars can line up and we can hand out dry goods and bagged produce items. And on any given day, when we're doing our mobile market in Siler City, we may serve more than a car per minute. So that's more than a family per minute. And we're operating usually for at least 2 hours. Our busiest times, we're serving 200 families or more in 2 hours. So, it's really important for us to be able to reach those families where they need it the most. Our other mobile market is in an area or a community called Nature Trail, which is kind of on the Chatham County, Orange County line. And it's a largely Latinx community. Typically at one of those mobile markets, which we had one this afternoon, we'll serve between 60 and 80 families. And at those mobile markets, we're doing all that we can to make sure that we're providing culturally appropriate food. So we're trying to focus on food items that might be more popular in the Latinx community and, things that they will really appreciate. As several other folks have talked about, we do face a lot of issues with childhood food insecurity. It's especially difficult with kids leaving school and, facing the reality that they may not have dinner at home, or when the weekends or the breaks roll around that they may not have meals and snacks available to them. And, there are many programs out there like backpack programs, which many of you might be familiar with, to help kids get food at home on the weekends and when school's not in session. One of the things that we noticed, however, about the traditional backpack programs is that kids in those programs often felt, the stigma attached to being seen leaving school with an extra bag of food. And little kids in particular oftentimes couldn't even carry their regular backpacks and the food. It was just too much for them to schlep around. So we kind of tweaked the model a little bit, and through partnerships with the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina, as well as DoorDash, we're having food delivered directly to children's homes. So it's a free delivery model. Last year we served about 80 students. This year we think we'll go up to about 150. The need is much more than that, but that's what we can afford to do right now. Once a month, we will send home boxes of food that are pre-packed with shelf-stable items that are enough for 3 meals a day and snacks for each of the days in a month that school is not in session. So it's a more robust box, say, for example, during Christmas break. And we have another program that picks up where Cora Packs leaves off. But the Cora Packs program, throughout the course of the year, children get around 250 meals, and it comes out to about $3.50 a child. So that's really an amazing thing. But it's something that we really want to be able to expand in capacity and funding, because we know that we could serve so many more children. And it's really an incredible need in Chatham County with, like I mentioned earlier, about half of the children being on free and reduced lunch. Now, SNAC is our other children's program. SNAC stands for Summer Nutritional Assistance for Chatham Kids. This is a program that we started, I believe, about 13 years ago now. So it's also been going a long time. And, we typically serve 1,300 to 1,400 children each summer, this past summer being one of our busiest ones. But SNAC is a great community model, just like our model with Porch, where we work with so many different Porch communities that bring food to Cora. Through the SNAC program, we can also work with community partners that might be other nonprofits. They might be faith-based organizations. We've worked with local schools. We've worked with community centers. So it's a really great way to get buy-in from the local community around making sure that children don't go hungry over the summer. We provide food distributions in pre-packed boxes, and the boxes contain enough shelf-stable goods to make sure that every child in the household that's registered for the program has 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, and then we provide distributions every other week. So they're getting 2 weeks worth of food. One of the real blessings that came out of the pandemic was USDA started a fresh produce distribution that we were able to incorporate into SNAC. And we've been able to keep that up on our own for the past couple of summers. So not only are the kids getting tuna fish and canned chicken and cereal and things like that, they're also getting apples and oranges and other kinds of fresh fruits and vegetables that can help supplement their meals for every week while school is not in session. I'm always a little bit amazed when I look at Cora and I think about, that we're a staff of 10, 2 of whom are part-time. We've got a huge, robust group of volunteers, but when you really think about our core group of volunteers, it's around 75. Yet, nevertheless, we've been able to give out food to over 10,000 individuals. And when you look at those individuals, if you multiply that out across each program that they participate in, or each time they visit the pantry, that actually equates to over 65,000 visits, or 65,000, the equivalent of 65,000 mouths fed. So it's really a huge number, and it's 1.28 million meals served. And again, when I see our small building and our relatively small operation, I can't help but be so thrilled that that's the impact that we're able to have. And again, another shout out to Porch. We would not be able to do that without the support of so many Porch communities locally. And I think it's also important to mention the things that our neighbors say about us and the stories that we hear about our impact and our partnerships throughout the community. As Gail mentioned, and then Christine has as well, when you think about the face of hunger, it's so easy to make assumptions about the types of people that might come to a food pantry. It's easy to judge, and it's something that every single one of us has to walk back from doing from time to time. And there are a couple of stories that always kind of stick with me. I remember I hadn't been at Cora very long, and I encountered a woman who had worked with the Research Triangle Institute for 30 years, had had a long and illustrious career, and had been in a really bad car accident and had a traumatic brain injury, and spent months and months and months in the hospital and then in rehab and getting her life back together. And RTI was great through the whole process. They held her job. And, eventually she went back to work, but she hadn't been back very long when she realized, and they realized, that she just wasn't going to be able to do her job anymore. So after a few months, she found herself without a job. Her medical bills had already mounted up. And so she was, really kind of playing catch up. And then another month or two passed, and her husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So then more medical bills. And she found herself standing in Cora that day. And, I hate to say looking like a deer in headlights, but that's really what it was like. And, I remember saying to her, ma'am, how can we help you? And she said, I don't know. I don't know what I need. And I said, well, do you need food? And she said, yes. And I said, well, we can help with that. And we walked her through and we got her some food, but she never imagined in a million years that she would ever need help from a food pantry. And another one of the ladies that we serve used to be one of our clients that we served, and finally got a job at UNC and is doing really, really well. But she lives to serve the Latinx community. And on any given day, she might make 4 trips to the pantry to shop for people in her community that, because they're working, can't get to Cora, or because they're afraid to get on the road and they don't know if they're going to get stopped by ICE, or they don't know if we're going to ask about citizenship. They don't come. So she comes to shop for them and might make as many 4 trips, back and forth from her hometown to Cora to get food for the folks in her community. So, we're really surrounded by a lot of wonderful people who aren't the typical, or the people that you would think would typically be in a food pantry. And I know we need to wrap it up, so I'll finish and hand it back over to Amy. Thank you.
Melissa, thank you so much. I just love these 3 stories. There's just so much creativity and, and energy, and, gives you so much, again, hope to address what we've been talking about. It's also obviously a really pervasive and insidious problem. So I really appreciate the opportunity to hear from all 3 of you. And I think, it's like hearing these stories and seeing that we, Christine always says, meet people where they are. And I hear, you saying, Melissa, all the ways that you do that with so much dignity, and Gail with a smile. And I think that is just, again, tremendous optimism, and something, that we all enjoy being a part of. So I think many people on this phone we're already a part of. We do have a lot of just interested people, and people who might want to, who have been a part, but might want to do something a little different as well. So of course, as we wrap up, we want to say that, you can join us. And for Porch's model, as Christine shared, our goal is to have a porch in every community, and to just make it as easy as possible to get involved and support the kind of efforts that Gail and Melissa shared. So, of course, you can visit on the website, and a lot of the number one reason people start with us is because they want to volunteer in their own communities. They want to make a difference with the pantries that are working and doing all of these great programs. So it's super easy on our site to find if there is a local porch near you. Hopefully, if there is, but maybe it's in a neighborhood that's, nearby, and you can help kind of expand that over. If there isn't one, we've made it easier than ever this year to get started with just your neighborhood and whatever size collections make sense for you. And for all the students out there, the students in your family, we also launched recently specifically a student ambassador program, which again is a way to kind of get started and get involved in your community in a consistent way without having to make, a huge commitment. The second is obviously to donate. We have all volunteers. You heard from these organizations, very volunteer driven. So whenever we do go into a new area, we help provide the startup for that, materials and support and marketing to get the word out. And we're continually helping to train and support our volunteers that are working so hard. And anything you can do to help us is really appreciated. And if you have specific ways that you think, you want to partner with us, either as a partner like you heard from here, or to help supply food, or you want to sponsor a particular program or area that's interest to you, you can reach out to us directly as well. And of course, we encourage you to volunteer with Porch, but also directly with these partners if you're in their areas. So as we wrap up, I want to leave up here, and you will be receiving afterwards everyone's contact information, because I'm sure you are equally inspired by what they said and may have some follow-up questions for them. Of course, you can always send questions to us.
Amy, thank you so much for making all of this work on top of everything, being the technical guru. This went so smoothly, so thank you very much. And Gail and Melissa, we love partnering with both of you, with all of our chapters and through all the work that we've done. And I'm having all these lovely ideas on how we're going to take what you said and bring it to more communities and use the both of you as models for growth. And for everyone who is here to join us, thank you so very much. Thank you for being part of Porch, part of our mission. Reach out to us, contact us. We would love to get more and more people involved. And please share our message with the folks in your life, because starting Porch really is that simple. If you're a volunteer, it's so easy to ask your sister-in-law or your cousin, even across the country, if they would like to get started in our effort. So again, thanks to everyone. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to seeing you on, I hope, our next webinar in maybe 6 months' time. So thank you.